Crime movies are a dime a dozen. For every 10 released, you may get one or two that truly stand out. However, when it comes to gangster movies, that number becomes even rarer, as most are just copy and paste versions of the former big releases. That doesn't mean there aren't some truly astonishing and captivating films in the genre, with characters you love to hate and a plot so intense you'll be sitting at the edge of your seat to see who makes it out alive. Before we begin, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Every new sub helps us achieve our goal and keeps us motivated to create new content. With that being said, I'm your host, Jamie, and here are 10 great gangster films. Number 1, Goodfellas. Possibly one of the most quotable gangster films ever made. It also pretty much revitalized the entire gangster subgenre of crime films and launched actors like Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, and more into worldwide stardom. It also did something that no gangster film had done before. Whereas most films up to this point made crime families look dangerous, full of action and murder, where the bad guys were just that, bad guys. Instead, it showered the lifestyle in kind of a glitz and glamour appeal, making it look addicting and full of wonder and amazement. Sure, The Godfather introduced us to the concept of it being a family business beyond just cashing in on gambling debts and extorting businesses. But Goodfellas made it look like a fun time with your buddies, and the rewards were basically becoming rich and famous. Of course, that doesn't mean the film shied away from the realities either. People died horrifically, ended up in jail or worse, and in the end, the law always wins. Being loosely based on real-life events was just the cherry on top of the cake, too. If you've somehow managed to never see this amazing film, head over to Prime, Fandango, or Apple TV to check it out. Number 2, The Godfather. Speaking of first, The Godfather introduced us to the concept of a crime family. Not just a bunch of villainous characters grouping up together to commit crimes and get rich, but an actual family empire that went back generations, treating it like an organized business rather than a criminal enterprise. Now there's a pretty amazing story behind the scenes of how this film even came to be, which if you're interested, check out the limited miniseries, The Offer, over on Paramount Plus or Prime. It's similar to some of the stories about the making of The Sopranos as well, with real-life mobsters visiting the set and even divulging personal stories to make them feel more realistic. It's nuts. As for The Godfather, and even The Godfather 2, which some people have said it's even better than the first film, it's a beautifully woven film that dives into the lives of the Corleone family. You got the head of the family, Don Vito Corleone, and his 4 children, Sonny, Fredo, Michael, and Connie. Fredo is the oldest, but he's kinda simple-minded. So the hope is that Sonny will be next in line to take over the family business, while Michael, who just returned from his military service, seeks a more quiet life with his girlfriend and future wife, Kay. However, when a deal goes sour and some betrayals are enacted, Sonny is murdered and everyone looks to Michael to step up and get things back in order. Gorgeously shot, in a classic score that will worm its way into your brain, head over to Paramount Plus, Roku, Prime, or Apple TV to check it out. Number 3, Casino. Another classic brought to you by Martin Scorsese. Also based on real-life events, it stars pretty much the same cast as most of his filmography, with Robert De Niro in the lead, along with Joe Pesci, Sharon Stone, and James Woods. Basically, the mob was running out of ways to make money in gambling in big cities like New York. Not because there weren't enough degenerate gamblers for them to pull in, but the law had been cracking down hard in the 70s. So Vegas was basically El Dorado, the Golden City, An opportunity for them to sink their teeth into and make millions, if not billions. They had senators in their pockets, which helped them align the state laws in their favor. And since so much cash was coming through their establishments, it was also a great way for them to easily launder other outside income sources. But money makes people do stupid things, and even someone like Sam Rothstein, who likes to keep things orderly and plans accordingly, it all takes is a few loose cannons to disrupt the whole machine. Enter Nikki Santoro and Ginger McKenna with her ex-husband, Lester Diamond, and they effectively topple the king of cash. Since this film is based on real-life characters and events, it seems not everything that happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Head over to Starz, Hulu, Philo, or Prime to check it out for yourself. Number 4, Once Upon a Time in America. This film is more in line with the Godfather style of gangster film, seeing the rise of a young boy during the Prohibition era become a top crime boss before things between him and his buddies becomes unstable and he's forced to leave New York. The film is actually told in flashbacks though, as we meet David 35 years later in 1968, when he returns to the Lower East Side of Manhattan to confront some of the ghosts of his past. What's great is that this film is directed by the legendary Sergio Leone, the Italian director who brought us many of our favorite spaghetti westerns like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So the film kinda has that long western tale kind of feel to it. It stars some big names, such as Robert De Niro, James Woods, Joe Pesci, Jennifer Connelly, and Elizabeth McGovern. And a hauntingly beautiful score by Ennio Morricone, who always manages to nail the right sound to give you that real emotional pull. It is quite a long film, coming in at 269 minutes, which is just roughly over 4.5 hours, if you can get your hands on the original cut of the film, that is. So make sure to prepare enough snacks and head over to Plex, Hulu, or Apple TV to give it a watch. Number 5, Scarface, a remake of a classic film that starred Paul Muni as Tony Camonte. The 1983 Brian De Palma version instead cast Al Pacino in the lead and relocated the film to Miami during the height of the Cuban refugee influx. Tony basically worked for Castro, but was offered a green card by the US government for assassinating a high-ranking Cuban government official and ends up in Miami. At first, his prospects are pretty bleak, working as a dishwasher and looked at as just another dirty immigrant by the locals. And so he makes connections with some drug traders and quickly begins to rise through the ranks, building himself an empire. However, just as he once stabbed his former employees in the back in order to garner his successes, he becomes increasingly paranoid to those around him, even his best friend Manny, and begins eliminating anyone he believes to pose a threat to his position. While it does capture some of the glamour of the lifestyle, unlike Goodfellas, this film goes hard into the violence that's often kept in the dark. The film also totally captures the decade of excess that it's set in, and even inspired most of the story for Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Make sure to head over to Tubi, Peacock, MGM Plus, Prime, or Apple TV to check out this masterpiece.
Hey folks, sorry to interrupt, but we just launched our very own merch store at fatninja.shop. We sell everything from t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, and more, so we would greatly appreciate it if you checked it out. All the proceeds go to our future projects, so it helps us make any kind of movies and short films that we want to make in the future. So if you got time, check out fatninja.shop. Thanks again, and back to the video.
Number 6, A Bronx Tale. I swear, all the great gangster films star either Al Pacino or Robert De Niro. or both. This time, though, De Niro plays a working class man, a city bus driver, who's trying to raise his family in a predominantly Italian neighborhood, where crime families have set up shop, and he does his best to try to keep his son, Calogero, from getting pulled in. But just like so many real-life stories, young kids, especially those who grew up without means, are easily talked into it doing just a few jobs here and there, which net them hefty returns and they don't see anything wrong with it. And that's exactly what happens with Cal. Even the threat of getting his ass beat with a hard leather belt can't turn him from earning the big bucks working for Sonny over at the local bar. But that's not all. As rising racial tensions are on the verge of boiling over as schools and neighborhoods begin to desegregate, and Cal falls for a young African American girl named Jane, which put him at odds with his friends and family. A kind of coming-of-age story set in the world of organized crime is brilliantly acted and full of emotion. So head over to AMC Plus, Sling TV, Prime, or Apple TV to check it out. Number 7, The Departed. Another remake, this time of a Korean crime thriller called Eternal Affairs. It stars Leonardo DiCaprio as William Costigan, an undercover cop sent in to infiltrate the Costello crime family. While secretly, Frank Costello has sent Colin Sullivan into the FBI as kind of an undercover set of eyes and ears to stay one step ahead of the law. It's like a cat and mouse game, but with a dog and a snake and a vicious hawk all thrown into the mix, each chasing one another, with each character just moments away from being discovered and having their lives come to a sudden end. Directed by Martin Scorsese, it is one of the few films in his filmography that doesn't star any of his usual suspects, and yet doesn't miss a single beat in excitement and intrigue. Unlike his other films, though, this one is much more fast-paced and action-packed. Less about the glamour of the lifestyle or the decade, and more about the intensity and layers of corruption within law enforcement itself. I won't spoil the ending here, as it's phenomenal, so make sure to head over to Fandango, Prime, or Apple TV to check it out. Number 8, The Untouchables. Loosely based on the real life of Elliot Ness in the early days of the FBI as they cracked down hard on illegal booze and gambling during Prohibition, mainly targeting the operations of big-time gangster boss Al Capone. While the film takes great liberties to condense many notable figures into singular characters, and rushes events to make it seem like it wasn't a decade-long process to take down the criminal empire, it does offer a decent summarization of what the period in American history was truly like. The reason the FBI was created was so that Hoover had direct control of a branch of law enforcement, one that answered to him, and him only, where bribery and corruption would not be tolerated. Even though Hoover was not always the best judge of character, or often interpreted the law in his own favor. The film eventually culminates with Ness being taken down by Capone, which in reality isn't completely truthful, but it's still an epic showdown nonetheless. Head over to Hulu, Sling TV, Paramount Plus, Prime, or Apple TV to check it out. Number 9, Reservoir Dogs. Less of a crime family type of gangster film, and more like the classic gangster crew style films of the past. This film sees a group of expert thieves and bank robbers hired to knock off one of the biggest banks in an unnamed city when everything goes wrong during the heist. There's loose cannons, an undercover agent, and betrayals all rampant throughout this film. The film alone garnered massive attention for the then up-and-coming talented writer-director Quentin Tarantino, with his brilliant ability for complex dialogue and intriguing plot twists, and a visual style which honed back to the big crime capers of the mid-70s, like Dog Day Afternoon. It boasted a stacked cast featuring Harvey Keitel, Michael Madsen, Tim Roth, Steve Buscemi, Chris Penn, Edward Bunker, and the late great Lawrence Tierney. With wicked whiplash inducing wordsmithery and over the top violent encounters, this film will keep you enthralled from beginning to end. So make sure to head over to Prime, Plex, Fandango, or Apple TV to ride this roller coaster. Number 10, Public Enemies. Another film loosely based on real life events, this time depicting the life of John Dillinger, the man most famous for breaking out of a maximum security prison twice and robbing banks all along the Midwest. Aside from Al Capone, Dillinger was the other thorn in Hoover's side, drawing the ear of the new fledgling FBI, especially after Dillinger murdered Charles Floyd, the agent in charge of the investigation. Melvin Purvis is then promoted to take over the case, but manages to botch a sting operation where babyface Nelson ends up killing another agent and escape with Tommy Carroll. This promotes Purvis to ask Hoover for an additional support, thus bringing Naval Intelligence Officer Charles Winstead onto the team. Together, they manage to catch and arrest Dillinger, but as I stated before, Dillinger notoriously managed to escape his prison confines using a fake gun and goes on the lam, unable to reunite with his love for Chet because she is under constant surveillance. Dillinger soon attempts another bank robbery, but it goes significantly sideways, ending up with Carroll's capture and Dillinger himself shot, as well as only $46,000 in cash of what was supposed to be an $800,000 payday. I won't spoil the end for those who don't know how this story turns out, so make sure to head over to Netflix, Prime, or Apple TV to see it play out. Thanks for checking out the video. Did we leave any films off the list? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to tap that bell icon to stay up to date with our latest releases. You can reach out to us on Twitter or X at Studios Fat, or chat with us on Discord, linked below. Make sure to check out our very own merch store located at fatninja.shop. All proceeds go towards our next film project, so we'd greatly appreciate it. I've been your host, Jamie. Thanks again. See you in the next one.